Dr. David Bilstrom is a quadruple board-certified medical doctor who has helped thousands of people heal autoimmune disease by treating the root cause. He is an author, speaker, and a member of the American Academy of Integrative Medicine and American Academy of Medical Acupuncture. His focus is on anti-aging, regenerative, and functional medicine, and holds a quadruple board certification in Functional and Regenerative Medicine, Integrative Medicine, Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, and Medical Acupuncture. He is the former director of the International Autoimmune Institute and Bingham Memorial Center for Functional Medicine. Dr. Bilstrom was affiliated with the first medical center in the country associated with a teaching hospital to treat all types of autoimmune diseases. The center is the first in the nation to utilize nature and its healing properties as a fundamental component of a wellness program. He believes age-related aches, pains, and illnesses are a myth until you reach the age of 90. He also believes prevention is much easier than the traditional medical industry leads people to believe, something I too believe in, and is why I am so excited to introduce you to Dr. Bilstrom. Grab your tea, a pen and paper, and let's get into the episode. I hope this podcast has helped you in your autoimmune journey. If you find value and inspiration in this episode, please leave a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend. When you do, you are helping this podcast reach people around the world who are ready to live a pain-free life. The information and opinions shared in this podcast are for educational and informational purposes only. The content within this podcast is not a substitute for professional care. Always seek the advice of a physician or medical professional to answer health-related questions. Implementing the advice shared on this podcast should be done at your own risk. Actions taken by listeners as a result of the content shared on this podcast is not the responsibility of the host or creator. This podcast does not endorse and is not affiliated with treatments or products mentioned in this podcast unless otherwise specified. Products or treatments shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of a medical professional for answers to product or treatment questions. All content, including but not limited to text, graphics, logos, and material shared under the Autoimmune Reboot podcast, is protected by copyright and all applicable laws. Any kind of unauthorized distribution or use of this content is strictly prohibited and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Listening to this podcast is acknowledging your agreement with these terms. Today I have Dr. David Bilstrom here. David, welcome to the show.
Lovely to be here.
So you are a quadruple board certified medical doctor who has helped thousands of people heal autoimmune disease by treating the root cause. Can you please tell us your story and what led you to your focus on chronic illness and autoimmune disease?
My interest has always been in chronic disease. Originally, my first board certification and my residency training at University of Colorado was in physical medicine and rehabilitation. So we tend to take folks that have all kinds of chronic issues, and they tend to be the folks that maybe other specialties just haven't figured out what they would like to figure out to help them enough, so they send them to rehab. So my area of subspecialty was spinal cord injury rehabilitation. So everybody that I saw basically was paralyzed from the waist down or the neck down. Very complex. Every organ system is involved. There's not a ton of medicines to help. There are medicines, but also this population is very sensitive to medication side effects. So just when you're using a medicine, you're ramping up the dose, they start getting some benefit for whatever the problem is. Well, the side effects become so profound, you can't use anymore. So you're off to the next medicine. And it's not hard to run out of medicines, and the person still has a lot of challenges. And so after doing this for a while, I got thinking, well, wouldn't it be lovely if there's something else out there for these folks that I don't know about? But wouldn't it be lovely if it's there? And wouldn't it be great if they didn't have any side effects? Because the side effects were always so frustrating. And as I started doing all my research, acupuncture kept coming up. Where acupuncture has been around thousands of years. It's a way of looking at the body that allows you to impact any organ system, any health issue, and there's no side effects. This sounds kind of good. I'm going to train in it, because with spinal cord injury, we end up becoming people's primary care provider, even though we're like a hyper specialist, because their needs are so unique and we might only know those. So like, for example, you go to the local 5 and dime and you buy a sinus decongestant. Don't even think twice about it. Well, that could kill these folks. And so we ended up being the primary care. So I said, well, if you're really going to help this population, maybe I need to know the acupuncture, because maybe just an acupuncturist doesn't know their special needs wouldn't be as helpful. So I went to UCLA, trained in medical acupuncture, got board certified in medical acupuncture. And when I got back and I had a dozen partners that were in the same situation as I was, like, geez, what can we do if we can't help these people? And so instantly I started getting a ton of referrals. And of course, it was always the worst of the worst of the worst people in our practice. And they got so much better. And I'm like, holy cow, this stuff works so much better than I even thought it was going to work. And I kind of thought of it as like last ditch effort when nothing else works. But it's like, well, there's no side effects. It can kind of fix everything at the same time. Wow, this should be more of a frontline intervention. So really quickly, I started seeing like 100 people a week. And I really did that for about a decade and a half. And it was in that hospital, other big hospitals. So I was very fortunate. I got a chance to do acupuncture for like everything under the sun that probably most people never get a chance to do, or even go, wow, you can do acupuncture for that. So like I'm 6 for 6 bringing people out of comas with acupuncture. People that have been in the intensive care unit for like months and months, and they're still in the coma. And 5 times, it was one treatment, actually about 15 minutes into one treatment, they woke up, hey, where am I? And they can leave the next day. One time I had to come back a second day. But you look at that and you go like, holy cow, that you can actually treat anything, right? No medicines are available for treating those kind of things. But it also really got me thinking, well, what else do I not know out there that I didn't learn in my more traditional, medical training? And holy cow, is there a lot out there? And so this has been over a 3-decade journey, and finding things that just the more traditional Western allopathic, we're just not taught this stuff in school. And it's not in our continuing education courses. It's not in all these kind of things. There's been this huge explosion of medical knowledge, which is really great, where I started lecturing about this decades ago, and I would say, well, 1970, medical knowledge was doubling every 7 years. And by, this time it'll be every 3 years. And by 2021, it's going to be every 72 days. And it came to fruition. So there's so much medical knowledge, but I started seeing a lot of people with autoimmune disease. 80% of people with autoimmune disease are women. They came to me because they've been every place else, kind of like the rehab. We tried everything, nothing works. Can you help me? And I kept hearing the same story over and over and over again, and now the science bears this out, where women on average, 5 to 7 doctors over 3 to 8 years, doctor after doctor, they're feeling worse and worse and worse and worse. And nobody can even give them a diagnosis, right? Well, then they get this diagnosis. Well, first off, they're told there's no way you can get rid of it. We have no idea why you got it, and we have no way to get rid of it. The best we can do is, here's these medicines to suppress your immune system. They'll take care of a few symptoms, hopefully take care of a lot of the symptoms, but we're not fixing the root cause, as you alluded to. So you're never going to feel like you used to, but this will tend to get worse over time. And if people were being truthful, they said, well, if you get one, you're probably going to get a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth. Because I've seen women in their 20s with 6 autoimmune diseases. I've seen children 8 years old with 4 autoimmune diseases. All right. And so then I'm helping these folks. And I was seeing a lot of people from a lot of places. I was in Chicago. I'm seeing people in the East Coast, United States, all this. Well, then this big article came out in the New York Times, and this wonderful journalist was losing both her life and her profession, her career, to lupus. And she wrote this article, and it was the same story I heard 1,000 times. She got the diagnosis. They put her on immunosuppressant medicines after this huge journey to get a diagnosis, and she just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And this is when I said, okay, somebody's got to change the way autoimmune disease is dealt with worldwide. This is ridiculous. It's a story hundreds, thousands of times here in the US alone. That's one reason I love the name of your podcast, Autoimmune Reboot. I said I got change the way autoimmune disease is dealt with worldwide. But I think you said it much more elegantly, autoimmune reboot. So I've been on this huge journey for children and adults, and not just to reverse it when it's there, but of course when you do that, you're also preventing future autoimmune disease. But also the stuff runs in families. We want to prevent it from happening to other people in the family. And fortunately, over this last decade or so, it turns out so many chronic diseases actually are autoimmune, immune related, that we never even thought were that, like dementia and Alzheimer's and osteoporosis. And heart attacks and strokes have this immune system autoimmune component. Even autism is 70% one particular autoimmune disease. And so this is why I do what I do. And boy, the numbers are just epidemic. They're just getting more and more and more as time goes on. It's really unfortunate. And more people end up on the same meds with the same story.
It's interesting your description of these situations that people find themselves in mimics what I experienced personally. And until I started doing the research, I did not realize how frequent autoimmune disease is in the lives of so many people.
Yeah.
And it was actually Dr. Mark Hyman who was the first person to ever open my eyes. It truly was the beginning of the journey for me. I didn't even know what an autoimmune disease was in the beginning of my journey, but I quickly realized I had all of the symptoms of an autoimmune disease, just which one was it? I would love for you to explain to the listeners exactly what an autoimmune disease is, because I think it can be very confusing to people. So I would love for you to explain that.
I'd love to. I'll do a little shout out to Dr. Hyman. He actually was kind enough to write the review that ended up on the cover of my book. And
Oh,
so,
I
so
love that.
following him, and he's great. And he has just done, if I could do a quarter of what he's done good for people, I would be so happy with that.
Mhm.
So what autoimmune disease is, so the immune system, there's two different parts to it. One called the innate immune system, one part called the adaptive. Well, the adaptive immune system is kind of the classic autoimmune stuff. So what the adaptive immune system does is something gets into our body that should not be there, that's going to hurt us. So things like infections, like a virus, let's say. Well, there are certain proteins on the surface of a virus that the adaptive immune system recognizes as not us and as something that will hurt us. So the adaptive immune system, kind of flexible, adaptive, it will make specific antibodies to attack that virus, that specific virus, to kill it and knock it out of our system. So there might be a whole lot of different colds and flus that are going around. Well, whatever cold gets in us, the adaptive immune system specific for that knocks it out. So that here we are, our cold lasts 4 to 5 days, not like 4 to 5 decades, right? I got a terrible cold. Oh, great. It's been 5 decades now. And it's like, no, the immune system says, no, that's not going to happen. I covered here. But there's things that happen that will make the immune system, I kind of say, well, the immune system get confused. But truly, it's things happening that tell the immune system wrong information. So it does the right thing that it's supposed to, but it's told the wrong information. So it actually hurts us. Okay. So the immune system is too smart to get confused, but it just makes, I think, a little sense. It gets confused for a variety of reasons. And it starts making antibodies to attack our own body parts. And so like a classic one might be like Hashimoto's, this autoimmune disease of the thyroid, where you make antibodies attacking our thyroid gland in our neck. You beat up the thyroid. It can't make thyroid hormone. People start getting all these terrible symptoms of low thyroid because you can't make thyroid hormone. The darn glands beat up. Or you can attack the joints, rheumatoid arthritis, or the brain, actually autism and multiple sclerosis. And we now know Alzheimer's and dementia as well. Could attack the skin. Here's psoriasis and eczema, all these different body parts. And so truly, there's not like hundreds of different autoimmune diseases. Kind of like you alluded to, is they could, what name you could put on it, because it sounds like my symptoms could be any of them. Well, they really truly are one disease that can attack any body part. But when you get one body part attacked, if you don't stop the process and get that to go away, well, then the next body part gets attacked and the next one. That's one reason why it's so easy to get multiple, because it's not like a whole new disease. It's just the same disease process attacking new body parts as time goes on. And, fortunately, to your point, the science is very clear what will put the body in a position to have this happen and what we got to do to get the immune system to stop attacking that body part. And then the body part can heal. And then the body part can start doing its work again, such as the thyroid. Even if you've been put on thyroid medicine for this reason, you could actually make your thyroid hormone all by yourself eventually.
What is the ideal environment for an autoimmune disease to develop?
The world we live in. Boy, is that a perfect world to get an autoimmune disease, right? Like crazy epidemic. And so like every time I lecture, I got to like redo my numbers. 3 years ago, I did a lecture to the Arizona Nurse Practitioner Conference. And here are the numbers for autism. 1 in 74, well, I'm sorry, 1 in 64 in the US and Canada, North America, 1 in 154 worldwide. Well, I just did another lecture not too long ago, and it's now 1 in 32, I believe, US, North America. And in the world, where it used to be 1 to 164, the very best other country is Sweden, and they're at 1 to 100. Every other country is worse than they are. And I'm like, holy cow, it's only been 3 years, right? And so this is a worldwide problem, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
What do you think is contributing to this increase?
So, the body always is trying to move towards wellness. Its default mode is to move towards wellness. Okay. No matter what happens, the body should be able to fix it. And so let's say you're walking around your house bare feet and you kick a chair leg. You're hopping around in terrible toe pain. Well, inherently, we don't, it's kind of subconsciously, we know the body can fix that. It's going to fix that. We're not going to be hopping around in tremendous toe pain for the next 50 years, right? 2 or 3 minutes later, it'll go away. We'll go, man, I'm going to try not to do that again. That hurt like crazy. But then we get these chronic health issues. And unfortunately, the traditional Western allopathic thing as well, what are we going to do? We couldn't have prevented it in the first place, but now we can't make it go away. We're just going to give you medicines to put a bandage based on a few symptoms. Oh, psoriasis, skin symptoms. Oh, Hashimoto's. Well, we'll just give you the hormone you thought you can't make anymore. Oh, here's this one to help your joints, kind of a thing. Here's your brain one. But the science is really clear why this stuff where this stuff comes from, which really makes it lovely, because then we go, oh, well, we know exactly where to look to find out on testing, because it's kind of nice to test. We don't have to guess, because even though 10 people have rheumatoid, they're all 10 different people. And yeah, for some reason their joints became their weak spot and the immune system attacked their weak spot, but they're 10 different people. And we don't want to waste your time doing something you don't need. So testing is really lovely. So the things that do this, one thing, so maybe I'll start with the things that even get overlooked by most docs that kind of know this stuff. So one is that infections are always part of chronic disease. We've known that about autoimmune disease for a while, but we now know that about all chronic disease. They just tend to be the infections that are different than the infections that give us an obvious disease. High fever, chills, I know I got an infection, right?
Mhm.
But these are the ones that get in and they create this chronic smoldering inflammation that just builds over time. They hide from the immune system, so we don't get the fever, chills response from the immune system. But every one of them we can check in the blood test. Any lab can run it, look in the blood work for these guys. We know which ones to look for. And you can do a digestive stool analysis to find the ones in the gut. Usually, typically, it's going to be multiple types of infection. It's not just one dude. If somebody leaves the barn door, all the animals leave and get into the pasture. And so it's viruses. It can be parasites. You hear a lot about parasites nowadays. It could be funguses like candida and other yeast stuff. You hear about that all the time. But also tick-borne diseases are super on the rise. And there's one that's really common called mycoplasma that is not a virus. It's not a fungus. It's not a bacteria. It's its own unique dude. He's always involved in these kind of things. So that's a big one. Another one is the gut, of course. Everybody knows the gut's like the super central mechanism. The intestinal microbiome gets thrown off. Now, unfortunately, I think that there's something that really gets missed a lot in how to fix that. Cortisol, the stress hormone, always gets stressed out about not feeling good. You can have no emotional stress. Now, if you've worked your life to do that, wow, I'm super impressed. But physical stress. So to the body, stress is stress. Emotional, physical, spiritual. You stubbed your toe like that. That's tremendous physical stress. But when you get an infection in your system, physical stress 24/7, disrupted gut, 24/7 physical stress. And the other things, cortisol always gets stuck in the stress mode, this fight or flight mode, life or death mode, even if you can't feel it, though most people can. Geez, I don't sleep, my brain runs. I'm a little more worrier than I should be. I'm more anxious than I should be, maybe panic attacks even. Hold my muscles tight all the time. I bite my fingernails. I can't keep from grinding my teeth, pick at my cuticles. That's all stuck in the stress mode. So cortisol is always involved. Vitamin deficiencies, because the gut gets disrupted and we can't get nutrients out of our food. Unfortunately, so many people eat food that nutrient depleted, right? The super processed stuff has no nutrient value whatsoever. But even if you're eating high quality, nutrient rich foods with a disrupted gut, you can't get the nutrients out. And it's like your body's starving for nutrients. But then when the gut's off, it also is really hard to get rid of toxins from the body. We live in a very toxic world, of course, right? All these environmental toxins, they get in, we got to get them out. Well, if we can't get them out faster than they're coming in, they build. But then again, every cell in our body makes toxic byproducts of metabolism. We got to run our detox pathways, get them out. But when the gut's disrupted, we can't detox, and they start accumulating over time. Well, that's kind of probably the biggest ones. Okay, there's other ones that are big, but those are kind of the ones, and including once the gut gets disrupted, it just throws everything off,
Mm,
right? This is where
yeah.
some people talk about how gut health is such a key to all of
Hmm.
it.
This is a lot of information for somebody to think about to solve those problems. What do you see often in your practice as far as mental load with somebody trying to sort through all of these symptoms, what the solutions might be? It's a lot.
It's a lot. Um, Fortunately, even though the body is super, super complicated, it's super, super logical. And that makes it so, as I explain things to folks in clinic or elsewhere, I hope people go, oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't need to be a rocket scientist or even a doctor or a medical practitioner to understand that. This makes so much sense. But also, thank you for asking about the mental load, because invariably the brain gets dragged into the mess.
Mhm.
Okay, that you hear a lot about the gut's the second brain. Well, it might be the other way around, but one way or the other, whether it's vitamin deficiencies, toxicity, cortisol, stress always tends to whack the brain, the gut whacking the brain, infections, all the ones that get into our joints and our thyroid and all this, they always get into the brain. So the brain always gets dragged into this mess. So by the time somebody is in a position where I might see them, or they might be going, geez, I got diagnosed with autoimmune disease. They probably got a lot of brain fog. They probably got a lot of brainy stuff going on. And all brain stuff is just brain stuff. We have different diagnoses, but kind of like autoimmune disease, it's like, well, I don't even care what name of autoimmune disease you give me when you come in. I don't care what they said. I want to know why you got it. And if we can fix why
Mhm.
you got it, we can fix it no matter what name got put on it before. Kind of the same thing with the brain. Well, I have major depressive disorder. Well, I have ADD. Well, I got ADHD, which is different than ADD. Well, I got migraines and seizures, and it's just all brain stuff.
Mhm.
They go, well, what's the root cause of that? We can fix
Mhm.
anything brain
Mhm.
wise at the same time. So, but this is a challenge, because if your memory's not what it used to be and your concentration is not what it used to be, and you're getting migraines and headaches, that last an entire day, and you get all this stuff going on, and now you're trying to navigate this chronic disease, it makes it even so much more complicated. But on the plus side is when you're doing the work on dealing with these root causes to get at, let's say, the autoimmune disease, these are the root causes for all chronic health issues. And the brain's the brain fog is going to go away. The headaches go away. The migraines go away. All this stuff goes away at the same time you're trying to fix everything else. And so when that starts happening, that makes it a lot easier to navigate this as well.
Mhm.
So you kind of start getting that out of the way, and then it's easier to kind of everything start kind of falling into place. The one thing I think that can get very confusing for people and most Western allopathic docs is when people get this stuff, every organ system is being affected at the same time. And you're like, well, I'm not sleeping great. My gut's off. I got this joint stuff, this muscle stuff. I got this, that, other thing. I got this rash. I got this eczema. Everything, my hair is kind of falling out. It's everything. My menstrual cycles are not what they should be. And you look at that and you're like, well, that's crazy. I'm so confused. How can everything be thrown off at the same time? I'm drawing a big circle for your audience, right? A big circle. Well, when somebody comes to myself or a functional medicine doctor, ideally we go, this is easy. We know exactly. There's only one reason one way that everything can get thrown off at the same time is these really big central mechanisms. I'm drawing a circle right in the middle of the big circle. These super central mechanisms are getting thrown off. They're throwing everything off at the same time. So if I see somebody with everything whacked, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where to look. This is easy. You look
Mhm.
right in the, and that's the things we're talking about. including one that I didn't mention, but I probably should have, was hormone deficiencies or imbalances, including one called estrogen dominance, which in women is too much estrogen compared to progesterone. It's a huge reason why women get 80% of all autoimmune disease. It is a huge driver of cancer. You look at the top 10 reasons why women die, it's probably involved in 90% of them, one way or another. You die in a car accident, fall off a cliff. That's not this estrogen dominance, but everything else is kind of a thing. The accidental death, probably not. Well, but if your brain's all foggy and you space out driving or walking on
Yeah.
a cliff edge, well, maybe it is part of that too. So this is where I like people to know that we can test and not guess. Hey, go to a place to get this blood drawn. We know what to look for. Okay, we're looking for your hormones, your vitamin, few vitamins, just a couple, not many, just a couple. We're gonna look for these infections. We're gonna close look at your thyroid and a couple things else, maybe. But what lab will do that? Any lab you want to go to. You mean the hospital will do it? Yeah. Quest? Yeah. LabCorp? Yeah. Everybody. I don't live in the country. Yeah, they'll run it too. Now, I might get the results in a different language than I'm used to from another country, but I can figure it out. It's like so easy. You don't have to do like any really super specialty stuff. You just go, and fortunately, most of it should be covered by your insurance. That's one of the things
Mm.
I make it more accessible to people is figure out, well, how can we get it covered by insurance? And so you can get it covered by insurance. And then there's a digestive stool analysis that looks at the gut. So valuable, so valuable. Most times people just pay a copay. And if your insurance covers the rest of it, great. If it doesn't, the testing company goes, well, we're okay with what your copay was. And then there's other tests that we eventually get to, like saliva hormone test, maybe looking at cortisol and other hormones, a urine test, looking for like heavy metals like lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium. You'd be amazed at how many people are high in like uranium.
Mm.
I mean, people go lead and
That's
mercury,
wild.
like uranium. Yeah, this is crazy toxic world we live in, right?
Wow.
And so these are the kind of tests that you can run. Now, because the body's so logical, because we know what causes this stuff, we know what we got to fix basically. We can do this without those tests. And there's times when, we just don't have those tests available. Okay, for one reason or another, in children, like with autism or juvenile rheumatoid arthritis or all these other chronic health, all these brainy things that children tend to get nowadays, the parents may say, please don't ask us to do a blood test. We did one for another doctor like 3 years ago. It was the most traumatic experience of our child and our life. Oh my gosh, don't even, I go, don't worry. If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. We're fine. Don't worry about it. And so, but it's nice because, with testing, we really can pinpoint, we don't want to waste your time doing something you don't need. Geez, everybody's low in zinc. Well, maybe not you, right? Well, everybody needs this. Well, maybe not you, kind of a thing. But it's lovely to be able to pinpoint that stuff. And then we can sit down and I think knowledge is power. So I share exactly what tests we see that's not right, why it's not right, how it fits into this stuff. And so here comes the logic, and they go, oh, well, that makes sense. No wonder my joints, hurt like they do. No wonder I got this brain fog like I do. No wonder I'm getting one thing after another, all this kind of stuff. But then we can really pinpoint stuff and get very specific with each individual, and no reason we can't really turn anything around.
What are some of the additional steps you take in addition to blood work? Things like diet and lifestyle.
So another one, thank you, it is when the gut gets disrupted again, it gets leaky. We can't detox. The gut gets leaky and beat up. We can't absorb nutrients. When the gut gets leaky, we start developing food sensitivities. Now, there's two different major ways foods bug us, right away or later, immediate and delayed. Immediate hypersensitivity reactions to foods. People are better at figuring this out for themselves than any test we have. The skin test for foods, wholly unreliable. The blood test you do in your doctor's office for food sensitivity, wholly unreliable. Why people can do this is what they say is every time I eat this food, I don't feel well. It could be real subtle. Geez, I eat ice cream and I get gassy. It could be real dramatic. My kid just ate a peanut and I got to get him to the emergency room because their throat's closing up. The other one, though, and this is so interesting because the science is so good on this, but the more traditional allopathic community still doesn't even recognize it, is what they call delayed hypersensitivity reactions to foods. And this is only food proteins. You eat a food protein. it actually continues to circulate in your system for days, weeks, months, or longer after you eat it. Days, months, or longer after you eat it, it's circulating your system. All of a sudden, it whacks you, creating inflammation, delayed. Well, if it doesn't bug you right away, you don't know it's bugging you. So you keep eating it. And then this inflammation just grows, grows, grows over time. And then people go, holy cow, I've done my reading, I've done my research. I know when I'm not feeling good, I'm getting all these health issues. I have too much inflammation in my system, no matter what my doctor may say. And I know it's got to be coming from something because I did my research. But one thing I know for sure, it's not coming from what I eat because nothing that I eat makes me feel sick. Well, not in the immediate way, it's this delayed way. Now, when you have autoimmune, this is kind of how it works. Everybody with an autoimmune disease has a delayed hypersensitivity reactions to the proteins in wheat, 62 different kinds, gluten's one, cow's milk dairy proteins, butter's great still for 99% of people because it's not protein, it's fat, and it's a great fat for the gut. Butter is cow's milk dairy proteins, but it could be anyone's. Now, we also know if you got enough brainy stuff to get in the way of stuff, you got a wheat gluten issue. If you get recurrent mouth sores, canker sores, you got a wheat issue. If you're an adult with any acne, you got a wheat issue. If you're a teenager with mild acne, could be a million different things. You're a teenager with moderate to severe acne, you got a wheat and most likely cosmic dairy. Now, every other health issue, it could be anything, but it could be anything for even this population. So a food sensitivity test, when you prick your little finger, you prick your finger, fill in a couple little drops of blood, mail it off in the post office. The one I run will test 96 different foods, delayed. And we can pinpoint which ones are bugging people, which ones are not in this sneaky way. Then we temporarily get rid of the ones that are bugging you sneaky. And it really opens up the window of opportunity to fix everything, including once somebody, I usually say like 80 to 85% better overall. I mean, truly, you come to see me feeling, and functional medicine docs in general, you come feeling terrible, terrible, terrible. I say, when you get to 80 to 85% better, okay, it's not like if, it's like when, you probably fix a lot of these foods. We're going to start bringing them back in one at a time in a way called a formal food challenge, one at a time, and your body gets to tell if it's ready for that food again. Okay. You really can fix everything, including those foods. Now, if you're eating foods that have no nutrient value, all these artificials, low calorie, no calorie sweeteners, all this high fructose corn syrup, all these terrible things, that is terrible. If you shift to more high nutrient foods, that's always a good idea. But invariably, we will do a food sensitivity test and I'll say something like, oh, broccoli, it's killing you in the sneaky way. And people go, oh my gosh, I'm eating a ton of broccoli. The only reason I'm doing it is because I thought it was good for me. I don't even like it, but I'm eating it for me. And I go, you're right. You're absolutely right. When I trained 30 years ago, probably more data now, there's 14 different studies that said that if you double your broccoli intake, you will cut in half your chance of ever getting cancer in your lifetime. 14 different studies. So I say, you're right. Broccoli is great for you unless it's killing you. And it's killing you. But you didn't test for it, right? So you're like doing something for your health and it's killing you, making it worse. And so I think this is a great test because for that exact reason is these things that should be good for you may not be at this point. And it's kind of weird, but the more you eat something when you got this leaky gut, the more likely that food is to become problematic for you. Even if it's supposed to be great for you, it's going to start killing you. And we can't have that, right? So it's really a nice test. There's no like one way for everybody to eat when there's like 10,000 dietary books out there, nutritional books, and they're all have great information. They're all right, but there's never like one size fits all. And particularly when it comes to these situations with autoimmune disease, chronic disease, is high quality food is going to be better than low quality food every step of the way. But you got these weird delayed hypersensitivity reactions, and a food that should be healthy is killing you, but you never know until you test.
Now, when you are working with a child, are you looking at food in this same way?
Yes. You can't do it before 1 year of age because children don't start making antibodies until 1 year of age. And what the test looks for is the body making antibodies attacking a certain food protein because that protein is our enemy. That has become our enemy. So you can't do it in 1 year olds. But in children that are still nursing, for example, that have health issues starting, you got to look at what the mom's eating because that protein from that food is getting into the breast milk for nutrition, but it could be hurting the child, kind of a thing. And so you do things like, things run in families, right? And I think my record is like 2 parents and 9 children. And after running a test like 3 times, you kind of know what the fourth kid's going to look like. You see a parent and 2 kids, you know what the next parent and the kid's going to look like. So it's like, well, we're not going to run that test because we can see this pattern already. So I'll say, well, high likelihood that whatever food sensitivities the child has, the mom has too. So we'll actually do the food sensitivity test in the mom who's nursing and go, oh, look at these things that are whacking you that you didn't know about. They're creating physical stress, right? Because they're whacking the system, but the cortisol gets all stressed out about this getting whacked by foods and creating this inflammation. But then the stress hormone cortisol and all that goes with that, that's all coming out through the breast milk, hurting the child. It's like the child's stuck in this fight or flight mode, life or death mode, because all the stuff coming through the breast milk. I go, well, that's not going to be good for a child, right? So you might check the mom and give her some techniques to create calm. And then you avoid the foods you identify. And the baby's like super calm now. It's not stuck in fight or flight mode anymore. Oh my gosh, they sleep. They're always anxious and angry. And the baby, gets all the nutrition they need without any food proteins that might be, disrupting it. So even in those ages, there's always a workaround these situations. I find there's always a way to, well, I can't do this. There's always a way to work around it.
I hope this conversation lets people see and understand that it's not as complicated as it's made out to be. You make it sound so simple. And I would love for you to talk about what lifestyle habits somebody can start implementing today. If they're just not sure what to start, what would be some of the first steps that they can implement in their day-to-day?
So a couple things you can do. One would be consider maybe like an elimination diet. So elimination diet, we tend to know the foods that bug people in this situation. We tend to know the foods that don't bug people in this situation. So here's an elimination diet. Don't eat these instead. Okay. It's not perfect. But then again, the body is so smart. We never need perfection. We just need perfect enough. Okay. We don't need to be perfect. And humans are inherently non-perfect. So it works out great, right? Imperfect beings, it works out great. Yeah, there's probably some foods in there that don't bug most people that might bug you because everybody's unique, but that's okay. Well, there's some foods we're going to get rid of that might not bug you, but bug people a lot in this situation. Well, that's okay. You'll be fine without those for a while. So that might be a good place to start. Okay. And a lot of time, and it doesn't cost anything. Okay. It doesn't even cost, the test. It's just like, well, here's this. That might be a good place to start. Now, anything that creates calm helps everything. So take 3 deep breaths. Every red light you're in if you're in a big city. Hey, 3 deep breaths anytime you think about it when you're at your desk working. Hey, 5 minutes of deep breathing, some meditation. That would be awesome. Get outside in nature. Look at a tree, look at the sky. I put together tons and tons of information about how nature helps human health and well-being. Okay. Get out in the sun. A great study just came out that early morning sunlight, which is primarily infrared, 15 minutes of infrared on our skin penetrates deep into our body, impacts the mitochondria so they can make more energy, ATP, so the cells can function, has a profound impact on the system as a whole, and particularly the central nervous system, brain, spinal cord, vision, which is part of this. 15 minutes of, and it wasn't even the sun, which is the best. This is just an infrared lamp hitting 15 minutes. Within 24 hours, a person's vision's better. As part of the central nervous system. Even when they put blinders on their eyes, so their eyes couldn't see it, it helped everything. Now we now know that mitochondria are a central mechanism how the immune system works, that innate immune system. So you're helping your immune system huge and your brain and everything. Now, when we go walk outside and our eyes see light, you don't have to stare at the sun. We have a lot of rods and cones in our eyes. Those are the image forming retinal cells. Okay. Light hits them, project information up to the visual cortex. We see images. Okay. But a couple of decades ago, they started figuring out that the eye was involved in stuff that we just can't explain by rods and cones, these image forming retinal cells. Well, it turns out we have non-image forming retinal cells. When the non-image forming retinal cells see light, you walk outside, la, 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 all it takes is 2 minutes, okay? They project to all these different brain parts of the brain involved in our metabolism, what is driving all this obesity and eating practices. Hey, I eat in the middle of the night. Hey, I eat at bedtime. I eat between meals. I probably shouldn't, but I do. Involved in that. It projects up to the part of the brain involved in our emotions, part involved in our mood, goes directly to the hypothalamus, which is the HPA axis. Hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland that sits on top of the kidneys that makes cortisol, the stress hormone. HPA axis is how the body deals with stress. This is tied in for everything, cardiovascular health, hormone health, you name it, how we deal with stress. And it projects up to the place in the brain called the master clock that oversees the 24-hour rhythm, the circadian rhythm of every cell in our body. Every cell in our body has a 24-hour rhythm and it gets thrown off. If you don't sleep when it's dark and awake and alive and energized when it's light out, you obviously got a disruption. But if you got a chronic health issue, you're definitely disrupted. The intestinal microbiome is a 24-hour clock. Our immune system has a 24-hour clock. A certain time during the 24-hour clock, our immune system attacks and kills cancer cells. That 24-hour clock is thrown off. That does not happen, right? And so just get your body as much skin as you can. Get your eyeballs out there. No glasses, no contacts, no sunglasses, because it takes 9 hours instead of 2 minutes. And all it takes is 2 minutes. And if you can do that multiple times of the day, that has this profound impact on how things work, including, if I can, I'll share some information about a lecture I did in June of 2024 in Paris, where I talked about the 4 maternal microbiomes during pregnancy that drive the development of fetal microbiomes, the mix of good, bad bugs in the baby's gut before they're born, but other microbiomes, like the placental microbiome and all this other kind of stuff. And I talk about how at 3 months of age, 3 months of gestation, there's a lot of baby parts still to put together. You don't even have a fully intact formed brain until you're 27 years old, right after you pop out. And the liver's not even fully formed until 8 months after you pop out. But a lot of baby parts to put together. A baby's eyes have already developed these non-image forming retinal cells. They start seeing sunlight and light coming through the abdominal and uterine wall a third of the way through the pregnancy. That drives the development of all these important brain parts I just put together, including the HPA axis. So they're already starting to try to develop a healthy way to deal with stress 3 months in. Wow. This is such a foundational piece of how everything gets developed in the body. We can actually use that as a foundational piece to stay healthy and reverse all these chronic diseases as well. So I just find the body just so fascinating that babies do this, but we didn't know it till more recently. And we're like, oh, it's so cool. But then we can use that for anybody to reverse this stuff too. And it doesn't cost anything to step outside. Now, if it's in winter in some place, maybe only your eyeballs get out and a little bit of skin in your face. But nicer weather, get out. I kind of tell pregnant women, we want the baby's eyes to see light. So pull up that shirt loud and proud. Let's get some sunlight on the baby. Now, that's the best. But that study I just told you about, the infrared for 15 minutes, they say, well, this is stuff that goes through clothing too. So you even have clothing on, it still works. Yeah, not quite as good as if it gets the skin, but even worse with clothes on. And you go like, well, how easy is that? And it doesn't cost a step outside. Doesn't cost to do an elimination diet. And then maybe the other thing I would say was probably want to be on at least 5,000 to 10,000 IU of vitamin D every day. That is huge. Now, we probably don't have time to talk about it. A central mechanism that nobody talks about is how every cell in the body has vitamin D receptors. The gut has more vitamin D receptors than any place else in the body. So vitamin D is even more important for the gut. Okay. The vitamin D receptors become resistant to vitamin D. So you can have all the vitamin D in the world. It can't find a place to attach to tell the cells what to do. And it's almost like you don't have vitamin D. Studies back, University of Illinois, they figured out in 2018, you can fix that with 3 things: daily vitamin D, daily probiotic, and something called butyrate, which should be made by the good bacteria, naturally occurring. They should make it, but they get beat up with all these different things going on. They can't make it. Use the 3 things together. I call it the foundational triad. It fixes the vitamin D receptor resistance, which fixes the gut in a way that fixes everything. And all this data has come out since 2018 is like what the original researcher said is, well, this looks like it can fix anything. It truly can fix anything. But it's really a foundational piece that you don't hear anybody talking about. But it tied into cancer. It's tied into all autoimmune disease. It's tied to all this brainy stuff. It's just tied into everything.
What are some of the symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency that somebody might be experiencing?
Anything. If you're somebody who's not taking at least 5,000 to 10,000 a day, you are profoundly deficient for a variety of reasons, including we do not make vitamin D from sun exposure nearly as well as we used to for a variety of reasons. But then again, people don't get outside as much, right? We're inside all the time. If we're outside, we got tons of clothes on. Of course, infrared can go deeper than that, but that's cool. But yeah, we're just all terribly deficient. And so that's just deficient is everybody who's not taking at least 5 to 10. But some people need a lot more than that. Now, it's a simple blood test. I usually say on vitamin D, pick a dose, take it for 6 to 8 weeks, get tested. You can even go online and order your own vitamin D test as a non-medical person. Take your little script to a lab, they'll run it for you. You want to be between 70 and 90. Now, if you got multiple sclerosis, you want to be more than 100. You got cardiovascular disease, you want to be more than 95. You want to be 70 to 90. Well, for every 10 points you're lower than that range, go up by 1,000 IU per day. Wait 6 to 8 weeks, test it again. This is such a profound thing, this vitamin D. Now, this vitamin D receptor is maybe more profound, but we know in women, if a woman can get her vitamin D above 60, not even in that 70 to 90 range, but just above 60, she's automatically decreased her risk of ever getting breast cancer by 82%.
Wow.
You're 82% of the way of never getting breast cancer your entire life. By that one thing, that's not even perfect.
Mm.
So this is where I say these central mechanisms, they are the big players. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but it's just not the big stuff. And a lot of people, I'm doing this really interesting stuff. I'm on 30 different supplements.
Yep.
Each one takes care of one little piece of the puzzle. And I go, that's great. I can tell you've done your reading. I love that you educate yourself, but you're missing the big pieces. And that's these central mechanisms that you'll hear me talk about all the time. We got a chance to talk about today.
There are so many little pieces to the puzzle, and there's the simple, free pieces to the puzzle that you're talking about that so many of us are missing. The sleep, the sunlight, movement, stress reduction, breath work. It's all the free stuff we forget about because we're so wrapped up in the outside world. We're so busy. We're so stuck in conventional medicine and the things they tell us we need, the medication, the supplements that are full of fillers and ingredients that are not helping us, synthetic ingredients. So I really love that you talked about sunlight being free. You know, how are you sleeping? How much are you moving? What are you eating? Those are some great foundational habits to start with. You say aches and pains of aging should only start around the age of 90. And I love this. My great grandmother always said age is all in your head, and it's all about how you think and how you live your life. Can you dive into that a little bit? Because I think this is an incredible mindset.
Your grandmother is or was so smart. She nailed it. Unfortunately, the next generation's kind of forgot that wisdom, which happens. Yeah. So I get people in their 20s coming in. I think I'm getting old, 40s, 50s, of course, 60s. And I go, well, no, nothing's age related until at least 90. If you got something going on you don't want and you're not 90 yet, it's definitely something. No reason we shouldn't be able to figure it out and really help you dramatically, but it's definitely not age because the body is designed to function at a really, really, really high level, decade after decade after decade. And I've been saying 90 for the longest time, but since I started saying that, the whole field of longevity, not increased lifespan, but increased health span, probably suggests that we could stay healthy and happy at least until like 104, 105, maybe more even, kind of a thing. So when I say 90, I'm probably underestimating really truly how smart the body is.
I love that. That is incredible. So I have one question I always ask guests, and my question for you is, if you had somebody listening today who said, I'm lost, I'm hopeless, nothing's worked for me, I don't feel like healing is possible, what is your one message for that person?
Well, one thing I'd say is we know why people end up not feeling well. Don't let anybody tell you we don't know where this stuff comes from. Geez, how'd I get this? We have no idea. The second thing is never let anybody tell you we can't make it better. They're going to tell you, well, there's no way we can make it go away. The best we can do is kind of help you manage it. Don't let anybody say that. And the other thing I'd say is because this is so logical, no matter who you are, is on my website, there's a free 7-day email course. Each one's only about 6 to 8 minute read, but each one takes a deep dive into why this stuff happens, all the kind of topics we touched on here. And because I want people to know where this stuff comes from, but also talk about some of the simple ways we can fix this stuff, like we dove into. And so people go, oh, well, that makes sense. Well, now I know why I got this, but now I have a good sense that I should be able to make it go away. And if you have this sense of empowerment boy, you're like halfway there anyway,
Mhm.
right? If you're told you can't fix anything, they take away your empowerment, you're halfway to the grave. You give that empowerment back, you're halfway to getting better already.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Bilstrom. And where can the listeners connect with you?
So they can connect with me at drdavidbilstrom.com. You can see all my blogs, all my videos about this stuff. Want to follow me on social media? I put out all this stuff like the light delving deep and making your vision better within 24 hours. That's coming up soon. And I just want people to know, power, knowledge is power. And the more you know, and hopefully I can share some of that with you, the more you're going to get where you want to go.
You have some incredible resources on your website as well. So I'll make sure we share all of the links in the show notes so they can come find you and learn. And Dr. Bilstrom, thank you so much for being here today.
Have you tried everything to eliminate autoimmune symptoms like joint pain and digestion issues without relief? Are you struggling to keep up with the demands of life due to chronic fatigue? Does chronic pain keep you from doing the things you love in life? If you are feeling defeated and hopeless, you are not alone. I am Ashley Cavolo, a busy working mom who once struggled with debilitating autoimmune symptoms. I too felt like giving up after trying every possible solution without relief from symptoms like joint pain and stiffness, painful digestion issues, relentless chronic fatigue, and embarrassing brain fog. Until it was time to stop allowing the pain to control my life. I dove into the root cause of autoimmune diseases and was shocked to find the answer is not found in endless doctor visits, harsh medications, expensive supplements, or strict food lists. The secret to healing autoimmune symptoms is found within the specific habits that reduce inflammation and heal symptoms quickly and naturally. I applied what I learned and found relief from my symptoms in a matter of weeks. 7 years later, I am living a pain-free life free of autoimmune symptoms. I turned this discovery into a self-paced program called the Autoimmune Reboot, where I share my secrets and my step-by-step process to help you heal your symptoms quickly so you can live a pain-free life. This podcast is for you if you are ready to eliminate joint pain so you can jump out of bed every morning pain-free. Heal and maintain a healthy gut so you can enjoy your favorite foods again without that uncomfortable bloat. Go from no energy and endless coffee breaks to an abundance of natural energy and stamina to tackle the day. Eliminate uncomfortable autoimmune symptoms such as bloating, brain fog, constipation, diarrhea, digestion pain, inflammation, joint stiffness, skin rashes, and many more. Living a pain-free life is easier and closer than you think. I can't wait to show you what I discovered. Refresh your coffee and let's dive in.